this model is a little different. This is not like a federal government contract where, you know, it's padded and people are just getting... This was something that the federal government was supposed to value, sell to them, which they have bought, and then they in turn are supposed to revamp and then provide electricity through which they will now make money. How do you think that unless, of course, you suggest...
you know what they call finder's fee? A Nigerian will tell a foreigner, I'm entitled to a finder's fee. Where does the finder's fee come from? So the first thing...
The foreigner is the one who's going to pay.
He has to pay. The government has given me a contract. I have brought in a contractor, a foreign contractor, and I'll tell him, look, I'm entitled to 10% finder's fee. That is the least. At times, people take 25%. Where does it come from? It must be, you know, padded into the profit of the Oyimboma.
So at the end of the day, we most likely will be the ones paying, you know, back for whatever it is that has been added on.
Oh, yes.
Let's quickly take, you know, another look into the speech. One of the things that struck a lot of people, which has made, you know, headlines everywhere, is the national confab, which the president was also talking about. I mean, he has now set up an advisory committee to, you know, fashion out a framework for the modalities of this conference. Are you optimistic as to, you know, what could finally come out of it? Because a host of people have been clamoring for how, as Nigerians, we should actually sit down and talk about our coexisting together.
I agree entirely with you. Nigerians must sit down and draw up a constitution that we can safely say reflects our view. It is the modus operandi that I'm against. Once you bring government into a system where you want to synthesize the views, that government appointment will be, you know, slanted to suit the idea of government. My own view is this. There are about 700 and something local governments in Nigeria. Allow Nigerians on their own, without any committee, to pick out one member in its local government in Nigeria, without any political inclination. Tell Ikeja local government, I want one representative. Yaba, I want one. Throughout Nigeria, bring those 700 and something people to Abuja, devoid of party affiliation, without any string to anybody. Bring them to Abuja. Divide them into committees. We want you to do something within a month, without any interference. By the grace of God, we'll get something.
770
yes!
people?
How many members do we have in Parliament now? Over 400 and something. So what is 700 and something?
Well, we can see how rowdy it gets. And
it won't be rowdy. We are picking one from a local thing, and we are going to distribute them into committees.
What should they be talking about? You know, we've always had this argument. First, it was about the name, what to call it, and finally, we have it. It's upon us. Let's hope that it takes off after a month. What would they be talking about?
The nomenclature of Nigeria, the type of system we are going to attain. I think I've spoken once.
Even the nomenclature?
About everything. I've spoken once about it, that our system of governance is the craziest system of governance I've seen in Nigeria. As I said, Section 5 of the Constitution says the president is vested with all executive powers. So once he's elected, he takes over executive powers. And as my good friend Obasanjo told me once, that it is part of that executive power which he does not want to hold, that he gives out to ministers. Outside God, nobody has such powers in life. The same thing with a governor. A governor is elected, he's given all executive powers in the state. These are the type of things this present government has to look into. But they are not going to correct it because it suits them. It suits them. The system of governance cannot be changed by the present regime.
How do you mean it suits them? Because one would have thought that when you have such powers, then you can use it positively for developmental purposes for the nation.
What you have forgotten is this. See what is playing out in Anambra State today. Everybody has a godfather. Every candidate has a godfather. By the time he becomes a governor, he's owing allegiances to certain quarters. And with the enormous power he has to pay back. And nobody will query him. So he's there under a cabal of influence and not by the wish of the people. Such is the system we are doing. And we must discard such a system. We must discard it.
You know, when we talk about governance and still on executive powers, and you have your commissioners, your ministers, and even some others that you've given some powers to run some agencies for you, if they don't get to do what is expected of them in such ministries and agencies and parastatals, what do you do as executive man in charge?
You can't do anything because of the system. And I'll tell you why. The appointment of your ministers is not within your whims and caprices. The party will tell you, okay, you have become president. Each governor will recommend, a minister. Then within the state section, each commissioner will be appointed by, each local government. You will now find that the president does not control the choice of his ministerial appointments. And if he wants to fight a minister, he has to look back at the constituency of that minister. So if I fire him,
so he's fighting the community.
That constituency. So he's powerless, even though the constitution says he has power. But the political system makes him powerless. There are certain untouchables in Nigeria who are ministers, because the president will be afraid.
Mr. Clarke, we hear that all the time. Is it really true that we have untouchables?
Oh, yes, we have.
To the extent that executives really can't whip them in line?
Oh, yes, because if there's a dissension within the party, these are the people you run to come and help you patch it up. There is a big rift in the PDP today. I just came back from Abuja yesterday representing the so-called new PDP. And I know how deep it is. Now, people are rushing, looking for these stalwarts to come and see how they can. They are there. They have their own constituency within a constituency. And if you don't deal with them, then the center will not hold for you.